Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today, we are talking about some big updates in this incredible talent war story that has been emerging over the past few weeks. That, of course, has Meta and OpenAI at the center of it. The specific context for today's story is that OpenAI has felt the need to actually recalibrate some compensation. They're very clearly acknowledging the pressure that Meta is putting on them. But the reason that I think that this matters for all of us here, and I just want to lay this out right up front, is that while it would be tempting to write this off as something that doesn't really matter to you until it manifests in the technology that actually gets built, there are a couple reasons why I don't think that's exactly true. The first is, with a technology this powerful and that has this much force to shape society, who builds it and who profits most from it will have an impact on how the whole thing plays out. Now, perhaps one could argue that everything is so likely to be commoditized that it doesn't really matter because all of these companies will win, and that's at least a reasonable take. But we don't really know what AGI and superintelligence are going to look like, how fast they're going to accelerate once they're here. And so I think engaging with the question of who is bringing these things into the world is kind of an important conversation for all of us to be a part of. The second reason why I think it matters for us to be paying attention to this is that if there is one watchword for AI in general, it is unprecedented. Everything about this technology, the speed with which it is developing, the rapidity with which it is being adopted, it is just unprecedented. And while yes, for decades we have highly rewarded, very valuable engineers, the changes that this talent war is bringing in terms of expectations for compensation and the value of top talent are unlike anything we've ever seen with talent before. Period, full stop. Now, by way of background, a few weeks ago, we started getting reporting that Mark Zuckerberg was personally out recruiting a new superintelligence team. It started around the time of the semi-acquisition type thing of Scale, which brought their CEO, Alexander Wang, into the Meta fold to lead this new team. And when that story came to light, reporters also found that it was just the first move of this larger talent recruitment drive. Next, we got reports that there were these crazy offers being thrown around. Up to $100 million signing bonuses, for example. That was the number that captured everyone's attention. As part of a strategy, I think, to combat that, Sam Altman seemed to confirm it in a way that I think was meant to paint both Zuckerberg and anyone who took that offer as completely mercenary. And going back to the point that I was making before, perhaps not the type of people that you want in charge of this incredible technology. Now, at the time, and again, this was just a couple of weeks ago, Altman proudly stated that so far no one had taken that offer, but that wasn't going to be the case for long. Last week, news broke that Zuckerberg had successfully poached effectively the entire OpenAI Zurich office. Hyperbolic Labs CTO Yuchen Jin wrote, "They don't even want to wait for their OpenAI equity to vest. Wonder how big Meta's signing bonus is." Now, one of the people who was recruited, Lucas Bayer, did also say that the reports of $100 million signing bonuses were fake news, but still people wondered. By latest count, Meta has successfully poached at least 8 OpenAI researchers, and that number seems to be rising. Chubby on Twitter writes, "Even OpenAI employees confirmed the extent of the loss of researchers to Meta." They reposted something from Chang Lu, who wrote, "Not too many people outside the company know how talented and hardcore they are. Such a huge loss for OpenAI, and I feel really disappointed that the leadership didn't keep them." Now, the reason that Chubby posted that as a screenshot and not as a tweet is that the tweet itself was deleted very quickly. And now we have this new report from Wired. It's called OpenAI Leadership Response to Meta Offers. Someone has broken into our home. Sean, better known as Swix, writes, "Wow, this Meta OpenAI talent war has resulted in 1, going from, oh, the good people don't leave, to someone has broken into our home and stolen something. 2, a 1-week company shutdown. 3, pivoting the product launch calendar and AGI race, especially when Stargate comes online. And 4, for some reason, Meta is ignoring Anthropic." Now, Sean caveats, of course, if this source is true, but it definitely feels like something big is going on. The specific genesis of the Wired piece was that Mark Chen, chief research officer at OpenAI, sent what they called a, quote, forceful memo to staff on Saturday that was basically a battle declaration, a pledge to not go quietly into the good night and fight this war for top talent against Zuckerberg. Wrote Chen, "I feel a visceral feeling right now, as if someone has broken into our home and stolen something. Please trust that we haven't been sitting idly by." So what does that mean, that they aren't sitting idly by? Well, Chen said that he was working with Sam Altman, as well as other leaders, around the clock to talk to those with offers. He said, "We've been more proactive than ever before. We're recalibrating comp, and we're scoping our creative ways to recognize and reward top talent." The note from Chen also included messages from 7 other research leaders at the company, where they apparently wrote notes to staffers to try to get them to stay. Wrote one leader to their staff, "If they pressure you or make ridiculous exploding offers, just tell them to back off. It's not nice to pressure people in potentially their most important decision. I'd like to be able to talk to you through it, and I know all about their offers. And yet, complicating all of this is that apparently there is a broader sense of drain in OpenAI, even outside this battle. Writes Wired, OpenAI is largely shutting down next week as the company tries to give employees time to recharge. Wrote another leader in Chen's memo, Meta knows we're taking this week to recharge and will take advantage of it, try and pressure you to make decisions fast and in isolation. If you're feeling that pressure, don't be afraid to reach out. Me and Mark Chen are around and want to support you. They also tried to refocus people on the big battle. We need to remain focused on the real prize of finding ways to compute into intelligence. This is the main quest, and it's important to remember that skirmishes with Meta are the side quest. And so it's pretty clear that as much as Altman might be correct, that OpenAI's culture of experimentation and what he and team members perceive as their increased chance of achieving AGI would be enough to make many of the best researchers stick around, at least for some, money is clearly trumping culture. Now, speaking of culture, the AI cash splash is also starting to cause friction among Meta's existing staff. At an all-hands on Thursday, Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth was asked about these supposed $100 million signing bonuses. Talking about Sam Altman's statements, he said, "Sam is just being dishonest here. He's suggesting that we're doing this for every single person. Look, you guys, the market's hot, but it's not that hot." Now, obviously this matters because alongside the newly recruited superintelligence team, Meta also has multiple divisions packed with AI researchers that are currently on payroll that they still need to keep happy. Bosworth continued, "What Altman neglects to mention is that he's countering all these offers, creating a market for a very, very small number of people who are for senior leadership roles. That is not the general thing that's happening in the AI space. And of course, he's not mentioning what the actual terms of these offers are. It's not a sign-on bonus, it's all these different things." Bosworth then suggested that their efforts are bearing even more fruit than what's been reported so far, saying there are quite a few more in the pipeline that I can't announce or share right now. Taking one more dig at Sam Altman, he said, "Sam is known to exaggerate, and in this case, I know exactly why he's doing it, which is because we're succeeding at getting talent from OpenAI. He's not very happy about that." Now, I don't know. To be honest, that is not a particularly strong denial of the $100 million signing bonuses thing. It sort of makes it seem like Bosworth is trying to say, well, guys, that's not actually just for signing bonuses, rather than denying the totals. And also, he's suggesting that it's for a smaller number of people that Sam Altman seems to be implying, but that still could be offers for a meaningful number of people at these incredibly inflated levels. Whatever the actual numbers are, it is at this point very clear that there is a very expensive and well-planned poaching campaign going on. The Wall Street Journal reported on the existence of something called the List, a compilation of the most talented researchers and engineers that Zuckerberg put together personally over the past few months. It features PhDs from elite schools like Berkeley and Carnegie Mellon that typically have experience at either OpenAI or Google DeepMind. One recruit that spoke with the Journal described Meta's goal as obtaining a transfusion from the country's top AI labs. Interestingly, the article discussed how the tight-knit group of elite AI talent are in many cases swapping notes with each other, planning team-ups and also generally figuring out if they should work together at Meta. The recruitment of 3 researchers from OpenAI Zurich, for example, was reportedly a package deal that forced Meta to sign the entire team. Now, a less discussed angle of this story is that none of these researchers entered the field in hopes of cashing in on a 9-figure offer, at least not primarily. When most of these folks were beginning their PhDs, AI was a niche and fairly unglamorous computer science topic. That goes double for specialized areas like speech synthesis, where reports are that academic advisors would often try to steer students away from. Alexei Ifros, a Berkeley professor who has supervised numerous top AI researchers, said, "For my students and postdocs, the objective was never to do hot things and become a millionaire. The objective is to try to solve cool, interesting, important, unsolved problems." Now, of course, what has happened is that those cool and interesting problems are now some of the most valuable in the world, and Meta has started to pay accordingly. And lastly, of course, how it might shake out the dynamics. When someone asked Yuchen Jin, "How bad do you think this is going to hit OpenAI in future models?" they said, "I view OpenAI more as a product company rather than a model company." Now, I don't think it's quite that dramatic yet. I think that there is a successful talent campaign being waged. It's repricing the cost of the most elite set of talent for everyone in the market. This is what markets do. Someone comes in, says, "We think this thing that used to be worth that much is actually worth this much," gets a bunch of people to come over and join them because they're paying more than everyone else, and either they're wrong and the price resets to where it was, or everyone is forced to pay the same as they are, lest they get outcompeted because of the talent gravitational pull. My guess is that no one's going to wait around to see if they're wrong or not, and everyone is just going to pay up. When it comes to OpenAI, however, and their destiny, I think it's way too early to count them out just because there's been a successful recruitment of so far less than a dozen senior researchers. And when it comes to this idea of OpenAI as a product company, not a model company, the reality is that they are doing that in addition, no matter what. It's very clear if you are watching closely that OpenAI is at least a little concerned about the ultimate commoditization of models and is very determined to keep a close relationship with the end user. A recent story from The Information, which we will most certainly get into later in the week, was titled "OpenAI Takes a Page from Palantir and Doubles Down on Consulting Services." That, I do not believe, is about them losing talent to Meta. It's about their assessment of what it looks like to compete in this very new era. Still, it is interesting times. We are in a very up-in-the-air kind of moment, and I'm excited to be here covering it with you guys. For now, though, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching, as always, and until next time, peace.